Okay, I'm going to call this meeting to order. Please rise for pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Call for the approval of the minutes of September 1. So moved. 2020.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? No one? Motion carries. Public forum for this evening?
None.
Nobody here for public forum. We'll move on to presentations. Jody Little, Lisa Ramirez about the school mascot. Wherever you want, wherever you feel comfortable.
I'm looking from here. That's fine. Okay, so approximately 2 years ago, I was asked to take on this venture of coming up with a Blue Devil that would be something from K-6. The concerns came from parents, coaches, students that in each building and each sport had their own separate devil depending on what type of apparel they're wearing or what type of sport they played. We came up with a committee with students, alumni, there was board members on there, and then some people from the community. And we went through numerous yearbooks dating back as far as we can find. We found over between 50 and 100 Blue Devils. We took ones that we saw that were being used the most, and we brought them to a person that we hired to come up with a devil for the school. So after we presented the devil back probably about 2 years ago, we also had some conflicts on colors. So we made sure we came up with the colors that was used the most at the school as well. So the new version, I don't know, can we put it up on the?
Yeah, Kelly, do you know if there's a way we can present it?
Lisa, can we see it? Do I edit
Also,
it
to see if I
to how
can
we came to where we are now?
Oh, I think it's one of the larger issues and the confusion among what Blue Devil should be used and who is using what. The lack of consistency was a problem or concern. And also that none of the designs belonged to Allenville or were exclusive to Allenville. If you do a quick Google search of Blue Devil, you'll find several of the Blue Devils that Allenville has been used by other schools, other colleges. If you Google Red Devil, you'll see those same designs in red, in green, literally hundreds of other organizations using the Blue Devil or different Blue Devils that Allenville does use. And, maybe you see that as a problem, maybe you don't, but, the committee decided that we and they wanted something that was exclusive to the district, that no one else would be putting on their gear, and that we could also control and stop people from using if they use it.
And one concern we also, or one problem we came up with was depending on what year you graduated and what sport you played is what you remember your devil as being. And same with colors. Back in the 80s, I know softball and baseball actually were powder blue. And, Mrs. Beck was on the initial committee with us. And, she brought in a lot of her memorabilia and a lot of her old apparel where my kids remember a devil different than my husband remembers. So what we're looking here to do is just to come up with a devil that we can own. Allenville can own. We can put it on anything we want. Nobody else can use it. And that will work for embroidery, screen printing, black and white, and anything we need to put it on. So I think in your board packet, we have the options that we came up with.
And so when the designer sat down with us, and she sat with the committee, she looked at Joey's stack of 50-odd different devils that have been used over the years that are still, really treasured by people and important to people and nostalgic. And she was charged with taking those designs and using them as an inspiration in her new designs. That legacy and that history of Blue Devils would be respected in what was designed. So, it had to be, you can't plagiarize those other designs because they don't belong to us. So she took, so it wouldn't be a vast difference, that this Blue Devil looks like related to all the other Blue Devils, that it's a modern take, much the same way you might see, Mickey Mouse is like the classic example of a mascot that has changed a lot over the course of years, but is still recognizable as Mickey. And some people like Steamboat Mickey, and some like the 1940s Mickey, and he's still loved in all those incarnations. But now Walt Disney World has an official Mickey that they use to put on new stuff. So, Bridget is our designer, and she spent a lot of time talking to alumni, talking to board members, talking to community members.
So, excuse me, Lisa, can you just pull the mic up
Oh, I'm
closer?
sorry.
Because I don't know that people at home can hear what
Okay.
you're saying.
So, Bridget had all those designs and was directed to, respect that history and that legacy of the Blue Devil in the updated Blue Devil that would be proprietary, would just belong to Ellenville, and that we could copyright and control. She also was asked to kind of hone in on what our blue and gold are, so that could also be consistent across all of our collaterals. Print something or paint something, we know this is the blue and this is the gold. They're, the proper contrast, they'll show up on each other, and just so we have that official template and style guide for, all of our stuff. So people aren't just picking a yellow when they make something, or we have an Ellenville blue and gold. So, she went through a slew of different designs. They've been presented to the board before. This is version 19 or revision 19. Revision 18 had slightly larger horns, and Mr. Burns asked if the horns come down a little bit. He thought they were a little bit too, so that was the most recent tweak. And, so the goal was really just to create something that was ours alone, and that we could be proud of and have fun.
So the committee's recommendation is which one?
This is all the same guide,
To
or the same, but just
to the right are the new ones.
Which
Right.
one are you recommending out of the two?
It can be,
Well,
they're
they're-
all the same, they just show different color horns.
right. You might, like if you're putting that on yellow, depending on what color you're putting on, you might go with a different color in the horns because you wouldn't want to lose it.
Okay.
So that, the one on the left has an outlined horn, so printing on it. It might not always be printing in two colors.
Right, so that's the final recommendation. Board members? Iris?
Also, I think there is no difference in the two options. I like it. I think there's the gold and the blue will depend on what you're printing it on. I'm curious to know if this is picked by the board with design, then the activities in the school district that would have occasion to print this devil for whatever reason, this will be the one they'll use? Are they obligated to? It's sort of an aside kind of question. I would expect everybody to participate, but will they be obligated to use this mascot?
If this is the mascot that the board adopts, this is the one we would use.
I mean, I think, there are, districts do struggle with the, people can go on to a computer and print stuff from their own homes, and we're not in charge of that, and all those kind of clip art devils that people have been pulling are still available for,
This will be the official.
but to have an official one that,
Or logo, whatever.
Everything that's official, excuse me. I think the official, once we adopt one, official things that are coming from the school as that mascot, those colors, period. Things somebody does at home, that's something else. But I think if you adopt color and you adopt the mascot from officially, then everything that goes out with that mascot, those colors.
Anybody else want to be heard on this?
So, excuse me, would like apparel from, a kindergarten class fundraising have this devil on it then?
Yeah, if that's what the
Do we
board so
happen
chooses.
to have pictures of some of the most popular ones?
I do. I thought I brought them in this pack because this is my, and I think it's in the other
If you
pack.
Google like the Duke Blue Devil, or just Google Blue Devil,
I
you'll
can
get
get you that, Wayne,
images,
because
you'll
I
get
did
a
have a whole
screen
pack,
that
and I
will
thought it
include
was in
them.
here, but it's not. This is just all of the makeups, all the revisions I've gone through. I mean, she also came up with, I don't know if you guys remember she came up with an E.
Yes.
There was a whole slew of them. I mean, I don't know if that's something, Lisa, that we are still able to use.
Oh, yeah, there's
Okay,
a whole.
so we have a whole
catalog
right,
of
that she
type
came up with.
treatment
So
and-
if a kindergartner doesn't want, a devil on there, she came up with other options.
Well, she
here
designed
they
like
are,
a
Wayne.
typeface to say Ellenville.
These are some of the ones that we gave her to start with. That was part of our packet. You're welcome.
But if the board adopts this will be the mascot.
This will be correct, but
And
I'm
this will
saying
be what
she
the
did come up with at
classes
one
use.
point, I don't know if you guys remember some of the other just,
Yeah.
but
We can use that also if people choose.
we do have.
Yeah,
rights
she
for
created a
those.
whole style guide and other imagery, again, with a typeface, it had that kind of.
That's this.
She did a pitchfork, she did, so that there might be apparel or placement where maybe you just want the devil on the lapel and you want it to say Ellenville down the leg, but you want a typeface that complements the mascot. So she did a typeface for us as well, and a pitchfork if you just want to do a pitchfork and not the devil.
But I think the part that when we presented before that came back was more of the devil. So one of these, John?
Geneva?
So with the ability to copyright this image, if a parent wanted to print something personally, would they have to get permission from us to use it in order to print on like their personal apparel or things that they're selling or creating themselves?
I would, you would suggest that you maintain control over who's using it for what. But you can
But I'm
make it
sure we could have
available
something
for
at the
free.
office,
You
yeah.
You just email it or, send the file directly to the print, to who's ever doing the shirts or embroidering or making your photo backdrop or whatever. But, ideally, you want people to use it. You want people to put it on things. What's more important is the ability to say stop.
Yeah.
If somebody out there uses it in a way that we don't want them to, or another district picks it up, you want to be able to say, stop that. You don't want to stop
Our
a
parents,
PTA
yeah.
from making great T-shirts for their kids or selling something for the music department, but the more important thing is to be able to say, that's not approved.
Just want to make sure it's still accessible to because we have a lot of parents that just like
Absolutely.
to do a lot of their
Yeah,
own
I mean, you
do-it-yourself.
can just you can house it on the website so that people can download, if you want to make it that available and accessible to people. You just create like a Google Drive that people can just download it and do stuff.
Or like a survey that you fill out and then. you
Or,
get-
yeah, just
Yeah,
fill out a
or
piece of
just
paper
an,
that
you
you're
know,
using it for what purpose, and
Just
then
an
at least we know.
email and a request, and then you just send the file. But
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? All right, so this is what the committee's recommending. I'm going to ask for a motion to approve a mascot after a 2-year venture. Can I get a motion to approve the mascot as presented?
So move.
Second.
Discussion. Wayne?
So I would like to thank Jody and Lisa and the committee for for the 2 years of hard work. These latest ones, although are not the devils that I remember really like, are much better than the ones that we did see 2 years ago. So, thank you guys for your hard work.
Did we also choose the right blue and gold?
Yeah, oh, we'll make sure that that's correct.
We have the color code,
Yeah,
the
it's the
color
Pantone,
numbers.
Okay.
Pantone 102 or 109, one of them, but it's the blue and the gold.
Okay.
I have it written down in the office.
I think that's important too.
Mhm.
Any other discussion? If not, I'll call for a vote.
Can I ask for a roll call vote, please?
Roll call vote is granted. Trustee Freeman.
I'm good with option 1 and 2.
Trustee Burns.
I certainly have the utmost respect for my colleagues. I know how hard they worked on this, but I'm just too old school. I've been a Blue Devil since '87, and I already have my Blue Devil, so I'm going to have to vote no.
Okay. Trustee Little.
Yes.
Wayne.
I also have the utmost respect, but I will be a no.
Geneva.
Yes.
Lisa.
Yes.
Reverend Collins.
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Motion passes. The mascot is official. I'd like to thank the committee for their work. 2 years is a long time, and you guys have put a lot of hours in, volunteer hours, and thank you very much. And by virtue of your mission being completed, I am going to hereby dissolve the mascot committee.
Jody wants you to dissolve the policy.
Motion carries. Okay, we will move on this evening to reports and correspondence. I have nothing for this evening. Board membership? Oh, correct. Hold on one second. I am going to say that just like to recognize the hard work that's been going on as far as everybody, but particularly the IT people have been really overwhelmed, and really want to give them a shout out. Board membership? John?
Yes, after consulting with Superintendent Wiles, the Ellenville Athletic Hall of Fame Committee has announced today we are postponing the 2020 Hall of Fame induction due to the continuing COVID-19 situation. I believe it's up on the website but all 5 of our inductees this year are coming from out of state, and 3 of them are also coming from states that are on the New York State mandatory quarantine list. And so, we just made a decision that we didn't want to do this virtually. We didn't want to cancel it. These people are outstanding Blue Devils, old Blue Devils as it might be.
We'll get him a new shirt.
We'll get them a new shirt, thank you. And we want them to have their day in the sun. So we haven't set a new date yet, but we will. But I would like to remind the public one more time that we accept nominations for the Hall of Fame year-round. They have to be in by June, I believe, to be considered for the next year. But we're always looking for qualified candidates to enter the Hall of Fame. And as soon as we make a decision on this, whether we bring it into next year or try and get it done in the spring, we'll let everybody know. We've ordered the plaques and the sign. And so we'll be ready to go when this happens.
Thank you. Not an easy task. I mean, we're looking forward to that, and then it's a little bit of a curveball. Iris.
Yeah, I actually at the last meeting, and I haven't had a chance to ask the superintendent, but do we have the protocol from the Ulster County Department of Health about what they will be doing if we report a suspected case?
Yeah. The protocol for contact testing and tracing is included in Appendix O of our plan.
Appendix O.
There's been some discussion amongst the nurses in the county and our nurses and the physicians about clarifying the process when a student comes to school or is in school and gets sick, and the testing procedure there. So Mark Ryder and Dan Proctor, one from the county executive office, is working with the county health department. And I think sometime this week we should get some revised protocols with regard to that.
Right.
So we did get a notification today's Tuesday, I believe it was Friday or yesterday that's coming, or even over the weekend, it's forthcoming. We'll share that with you. We'll be modifying Appendix O. We'll be modifying that plan, as I said earlier, and I continue to say regularly.
Well, you know,
More
the struggle
information.
that I have with it is I know that on the part of the school district and what the school district has to do, I know I could call you or anyone can call you, and I'm sure you've got this all memorized already. The Department of Health is not under our jurisdiction, but we still have to work with them. So I want to know what their responsibility is going to be. I mean, we've made it pretty clear what our responsibility is, although I know it's flexible, but I am interested in knowing what their responsibility
So
is going to be.
and we have that in Appendix O.
Right, and
So if
I
you
will
take a
look there.
right,
I will.
Take a look there, and then that will be modified in the next week. But I do want to tell you that the Department of Health and the Executive's Office has been very, very responsive to questions that we have with regard to, I know other districts have had people that have tested positive or have concerns or they're suspected. And they are very responsive to
Good.
us and very committed to working with us to clarify things.
Good, thank you.
Anybody else? Just want to point out that you have in front of you the newest proposal for the logo between the three stakeholders, the village, the town, and the school. There is a final draft. I would like the board to just take that home with them, digest it, call the superintendent if you have any suggestions, email her if you want to add something or just try to adjust that. But at the next meeting, we will be putting this on for a vote
Approval.
once we get done. So you take that with you. Anybody else? Okay, we'll move on to superintendent.
Okay, so there's a few things that I want to report. So on September 8th, the students began their remote learning program. I really want to commend and really recognize all of our staff, especially our teachers here, that are working really hard and implementing that under very difficult circumstances. One obstacle has been some issues we've had with Spectrum with regard to the connectivity of the Wi-Fi. As was mentioned earlier, our IT department has really done an outstanding job here, working 24/7, working with the teachers and staff to make sure that people had connectivity. Right now, one of the issues was, while we had increased our bandwidth from about 200 and we requested 600, one of the things that was not shared with us is something called a pipe in the system, which allows you to have more bandwidth in your buildings, couldn't hold the 600. So about 2 weeks ago, we were told that, and they put a rush on it. And on Friday evening, that pipe opened up. And yesterday, we started seeing the fruits of that. And the speed has been much better the last 2 days. I will tell you that we are still finding some glitches here and there. The bigger issue is for our students and our community with regard to Spectrum out in the community and their connectivity to their system. So I think that Spectrum's done a big upgrade, and I think they're catching up with themselves on making sure that the houses and the equipment all jives with what the upgrades are. So there has been connectivity issues. There's been a lot of frustration. But, you know, I'm going to say this over and over. This is a pandemic. This is not the way we're going to choose to provide education in the future. We need to get through this, hopefully, in this year, and we'll be able to roll back into the way we provide instruction and learning to our students with some more knowledge about technology that we have. But this is not a choice we're going to move forward with. With that being said, we are still planning on going to our hybrid model on October 5th. That would be K through 6 returning 50% of our population. There will be correspondence coming out within the next week. What we've learned during this remote period is we are anticipating some challenges that we'll have with the remote instruction of students that are fully remote and opted in, and also the cohort that's home. So in order to maximize everybody's experience with remote learning, we will be modifying our hybrid plan. And we don't have that information yet because it's still very fluid. And I talk about that a lot. So hopefully we'll have something out to parents, but we are planning on coming in. Cohort A starts on October 5th. So we're not veering from starting. We might veer in a couple of tweaks on what we're doing, and we'll get that out to you as soon as possible. That's not to create any kind of anxiety. We are planning on definitely bringing the kids back. Everyone's really looking forward to it. 7 through 12, we're still working through quite a few obstacles with regard to social distancing, cleaning, safety procedures. 7-12 with the students moving around. So we were hoping within a month after that opening, we'd be able to start opening up 7-12, but I don't think it's going to happen as fast as we want it to. So everyone hold on. We're really trying hard. I know parents are frustrated, teachers are, everyone's frustrated, and justifiably so, but we're in this together and we're going to move through it together. And, in the years to come, we have a lot of work and recouping and regrouping and working on any regression that happens, which we're all committed to. If you have any questions, if the public has any questions, if the board has any questions, we're always accessible. Please, call the office. One of the parts of that we're looking at that all the schools in Ulster County have is one remote day, where students do a remote day, all the students remote. So that is a possibility. But as I said, we're taking a look at that, and we're basing our information on the experiences we're having now during full remote. Some good news, the yearbooks are here. I know that it was on Facebook. We have it on our website. I think many of them were picked up. And, our yearbook, the company that we worked with really, we kept getting messages, they're coming, they're coming, they're coming. And then Mr. Bonnets contacted us and said, well, they're finally here. So board has copies of them, and they've been distributed. They're being distributed this week to the seniors. There are some that are available for sale. You can call my office, 647-0100, or more likely you'll get a better response on the details, 647-0123, the high school, if anyone's interested in purchasing yearbook. Just want to talk about state aid for a few minutes. I know that in the news, we hear and see that there's some districts that are considering cuts. If you think back to where we were last April and May, we made quite a few cuts based on the reductions that we saw. Right now, we're in a holding pattern. The Director of Budget, Robert Majuka, has said that they are not going to be withholding the state aid for the September payment, which is a pretty considerable payment. Big portion of that state aid goes to pay teachers' retirement system and other state obligations that we have. But they have said publicly that they won't be withholding that state aid. We will have more information for you as the end of September rolls in, because that's when the payments will be made. Contrary to some things that are being reported in the news, there was a withholding of our state aid in July. So I just want to say that there's some confusion that it didn't happen, and it did happen. It was a smaller amount than what we could have lost, but right now we're in a holding pattern. We don't know what's going to happen. But we are not, as I said, in a holding pattern. We're not planning on additional cuts at this meeting or the next. But we'll be looking at it on an ongoing basis. If we do have a state aid cut in the next month, we'll have to have some action by November or December based on our contractual obligations. But right now, if everything stays the way it is, and the state stays to its word right now that there's not going to be any additional withholding, we're in a holding pattern. So I think we'll have to really revisit things when, we kick up for next year's budget, if not sooner. I can tell you that we are trying to maximize all of the staff assignments for aides and monitors. We are, during the hybrid, because we have to continue to deliver food to our staff, we are going to need the additional staff to deliver food, and we'll have a plan that we share with you as we move forward. So again, if we see that there's staff that we cannot utilize, we will bring that to you also. But right now, we think we're going to need all hands on deck as we roll into October and we open up school at 50%. And that's all I have tonight.
Okay, we'll move on. Well, Mr. Napoli's not with us this evening.
Can I ask a question of the superintendent, please?
Yes. go ahead.
Lisa, I'm glad you addressed that. I thought that the state had agreed to give us back the money from July, and
I did not hear that, but we
No.
will look into that.
I had long awaited for my union, NICET, to file the lawsuit against the governor, and I'm glad that they finally did. And to all of our employees, I know everybody feels the same way because we talked about this ad infinitum. I'm just very proud of my colleagues on the board. We voted to keep the employees on last year. So from everybody, from our teachers to our custodians, our secretarial workers, our IT people, I'm just very happy that we're not going to be taking that vote in the next couple of months.
I hope not, John, unless they spring something on us, but it looks like we're in a holding pattern. I always have to preface that because you just don't know what's going to happen, so.
Okay, Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum Instruction, Mrs. Kelly White.
Good evening. An update regarding our substitute teachers and non-instructional substitute staff. So during the second week of September, we held all the mandated trainings for all the substitute staff that was provided to our teachers and the remainder of our faculty during the superintendent's conference days. Additionally, for our substitute teachers, we did provide them with a full day of technology training through a trainer through TechQuipment, which we had some great feedback on. And then following their full day of technology training, the substitutes had the opportunity to do some classroom shadowing for 2 days just to see what the technology looks like in action. So we currently have about 25 substitutes trained using the technology that the teachers are using, such as Google Meet, Google Classroom. Additionally, we are planning on hosting an additional 2 days of training next week. We have a couple returning substitutes that were unable to make the training at the beginning of the month that have expressed an interest in being regular substitutes here. So we're going to accommodate with some makeup days, hopefully next Wednesday and Friday to allow for the trainings and the shadowing. So just in regards to what substitute teaching looks like during remote instruction. So we've had our classroom teachers set up what's called a substitute teacher Google Classroom. So this will allow a substitute teacher to have access to either an emergency lesson plan or an alternate lesson plan that a teacher has left. And what the substitute teacher will be able to do is meet the class online, take attendance, go over the expectations for the assignment, and provide any support that they can to the students, and then report back to the teacher with any concerns that came up during the day or anything that they feel the teacher maybe needs to address upon their return. So like I said, we have about 25 subs trained, and we have about 6 that I think we're going to be bringing in for training next week. In regards to instructional technology, there are there's some purchases underway right now for some additional online programs that have been requested by the teachers. The funding for these are coming through either grant money or building level supply lines. We, in your board report, there's a list of the approved or purchased tools that we're using for remote learning. And some of these we were using prior to remote learning, and that just happened to, they happen to be successful and useful tools for conducting remote instruction, and they'll continue to be useful when we return. So the list of them is in the board report. Additionally, I said at my last meeting I would give an update on homeschooling. So we currently have 37 children that reside in the district who are participating in a homeschooling program. That number seems to be changing almost weekly. Well, we're getting an additional student or two. Interestingly, we've also had parents who had previously homeschooled their children decided to re-enroll their students for this year, but opt into full remote instruction. So they're accessing our curriculum, but still maintaining what they were doing in the past, which is providing the instruction at home. So in terms of where we are from last year, we are up a little bit. And like I said, it has been increasing by 1 or 2 students each week. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes as we move forward.
Thank you. I just want to add on. I'm going to schedule a meeting in the near future of the board. We never got to do our walkthrough of the building. And also I've requested the superintendent to arrange for the board to see a lesson and how it's taught as far as, the remote, what it looks like. So the board can have an idea of what it looks like. So she'll be setting that up for us and we'll be in touch with you on that.
And construction too.
And construction, we're going to be scheduling a meeting for construction as well in the near future. It should be about a 2-hour meeting.
Oh, I did want to add, I forgot to mention. So during the last board meeting, I had shared with you that one of the publishers that we use for the reading program, Think Central, had discontinued access to the online portal that teachers were using, and we were able to have them restore our access at no cost to the district for the remainder of the year. I've been notified by a couple of teachers that there are components missing, and we're working on addressing them, but we have most everything back that the teachers had lost, which was a big relief. And, HMH has been very helpful in getting us back up and running with using that program for, like I said, the remainder of the year at no cost, which is great.
Thank you, Mrs. White. Move on to our personnel resolutions for this evening.
Bill, can I ask a question?
Yes, go ahead.
So do all students that are home and need a Chromebook have?
So there are students that do not have a Chromebook that are at home, and that's because our Chromebooks are on back order right now. We have a shipment that's, I think, projected to come in, a small shipment in sometime in October, and then additional Chromebooks in December. So we do have students right now that are without a Chromebook, and that's just because with the pandemic, that the factories are behind on the production of them, and they're just hard items to get, regardless of where you are right now.
Do we know how many students?
I don't have an exact number, but I can find out by tomorrow.
And what are those students doing to go online to learn if they don't have a Chromebook?
So I know in the case, I believe, of some of the elementary teachers, they've been providing hard copies of assignments. And I believe that's where the majority of the students were that were without devices. Again, I'll have to check in with the building principals to see what the plan is, but it would be to provide just hard copies of whatever resources they could to support them.
I do know that the tech department has been going through the high school and really trying to repurpose Chromebooks that we have to get them out also, but we'll provide a list
If it's
to
a
you.
small number, I think we should give ours up.
Yeah.
Students need to have that live access with their teachers, not hard copies, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. I'll get an up-to-date number tomorrow and see where we are with.
Thank you.
Iris?
I guess I was under the misunderstanding that all of our students, even last year, had a Chromebook. So that's not.
They
the case.
did. Some of them came back broke. Some of them had to be replaced. So I think in that process of returning them, fixing them, and getting them back, we've run into a bit of a shortage.
And we were looking to have them have one in school and one at home.
Yeah,
now.
that is not going to
So
happen.
that's like a
So
lot
one
more.
of the things that we are talking about is next week, telling students they're going to have to bring their Chromebooks in with them. So we were hoping that the Chromebooks, and we are working with a local vendor to try to see when we can get them all here so that they don't have to travel back and forth. But right now, they probably will. We don't have enough for a set here and a set home.
Well, especially, if you have students at home and this is the only way they're learning
Right.
for that particular time, then it's really imperative that they have one, even more so than the children in school having one, I would think, if that's their only source of education at the time. So, and like Wayne, I would give this up if it helped. So, thank you.
John?
Yeah, I think that districts all over the state are having difficulty finding Chromebooks right now because of the pandemic and what happened. And, this hit us right at the end of the school year last year. And so all the ones that had to be broke or repaired or reordered. So it's just not anybody's fault. It's just not, it's a supply and demand thing.
And we found too that some families only requested one Chromebook, and then after going through the experience in March, they realized that it would be beneficial for each of their children to have one, so they may not have initially picked up a Chromebook for each of their children, and now they're seeing that there is a need for that. So that was another concern. Or they were using their home computer that maybe is older, and they're using Internet Explorer instead of Google Chrome, and it's just it's not as user friendly for depending on the device that they're using or a browser that they're using.
Thank you. Move on to personnel resolutions for this evening. Under 6.1, resignation. Upon the recommendation, superintendent of schools be it resolved the resignation of Christine Duckett, cafeteria monitor, be accepted for purposes of retirement effective September 4, 2020.
So moved.
Second.
Then moved and seconded. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? No one. Motion carries. 6.2, upon the recommendation, superintendent of schools be it resolved the resignation of Sherry D. Simone, student assistant counselor, be accepted for the purposes of retirement effective November 30th with 2020 with regret.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? No one. Motion carries. 6.3, upon the recommendation, superintendent of schools be resolved that Carl Buetti, Jennifer Schoonmaker, and Stephanie Baxter be appointed as academic mentors for the Brighter Future Initiative program at a rate of $43 per hour work for the 2021 school year.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. Wayne?
Do we know how many hours?
I don't, but we'll find out. And this is all grant money, just to remind everyone.
Thank you.
Anybody else? If not, all those in favor? Opposed? No one? Motion carries. 6.4, upon the recommendation, superintendent of schools, be it resolved that Tatiana Waitley be appointed as community life mentor for the Brighter Futures Initiative program at a rate of $31 per hour work for the 2021 school year.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? No one? Motion carries. 6.5, upon the recommendation, superintendent of schools, be it resolved that the memorandum of agreement between the Ellenville Central School District and the ETSRPA Teachers Unit be approved as attached, labeled 2021-2.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Iris?
Could you just give me a brief on what this is?
Yep, we had a discussion about this, I believe at the last meeting, and this is the agreement we came to with the union with regard to the 6th period for PE classes in the middle school for, I believe it's 7th and 8th grade.
So they're picking up an
7th and
additional
8th,
class, is that
They're
what it
picking
is?
up 2 classes each. No, 1 class each, total of 2 classes.
Wayne?
What does PE look like this year with remote learning?
So actually, in one of my walkthroughs, I kind of listen in when the doors are open, and they're talking about, different topics. I've seen a teacher get up and do some exercises and things in front of the camera with the students, but when we provide the examples of remote learning, I'll try to include something in there for PE too, so you'll get a feel for that.
Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor? Opposed? No one? Motion carries.
Lisa, could I just ask a question about that? If, God willing, we ever get out of COVID this year, would the necessity be there to maintain the 6th period class, or is it just go until it's needed in the end of the year?
I'm not sure. We'll have to look at it. We might keep it for the consistency, but if we
Right.
have to consolidate for budgetary reasons, we might do that also. I really, that's a very good question, and I hope we can address it and get back to it.
Okay, moving on, 6.6, upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, be it resolved that based upon the selections made by the mentor team, which consists of 51% teachers appointed by the ETSRPA, the board approves the following mentors at an annual stipend of $1,000 prorated contingent upon required training. The list is Tanya Allen for Tracy Berry and Jennifer Bonnets for Noelle Van Bentenschoten.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? No one? Motion carries. Upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, be it resolved that based upon the selections made by the mentor team, which consists of 51% teachers appointed by the ETSRPA, the board approves the following mentors at an annual stipend of $1,000 prorated contingent upon required training.
So moved.
Second.
And it's Sue Stalter for Cherish Berry. Moved and seconded, discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? No one? Motion carries. Budget resolution.
Motion to move 7-1 through 10-1.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? No one. Motion carries. Mark your calendars for October 13th, 2020 as our next meeting date. Is there anything anybody would like to see on the next agenda? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? No one? We stand adjourned.